Hey guys, welcome to my review of the Finalmouse ULTRALIGHT 2. This is a much smaller version of their previous mice, and as you could see from the intro, it has the option of adding a lot of different attachments to it that they're calling infinity skins, that not only change the size and shape of the mouse, but also help with grip. To give you an idea of the concept, when you get your mouse, it'll come with 3 different sets of attachments which you can apply to it. They vary in different thicknesses from 1.2 to 2.0 to 2.5 millimeters. And you can kind of interchange these and experiment with them to kind of mold it to your personal taste on how you want to hold it and that kind of thing, especially depending on your grip. Honestly, with how many different sizes and shapes you can make with the grips, there's a ton to cover in this review, so I'm just going to get straight into it. I'm going to go over everything like I usually do with specs and sizes and that kind of stuff, and then we'll dive deeper into the whole infinity skin thing. And as always guys, if you want to support my channel and get a discount for yourself, you can use code FORTE, F-O-R-T-E, when you check out on their website. Also, I want to be clear with everyone that using my discount code gives me a commission, so if you want a discount but you don't want to support me personally, by all means, go use somebody else's. You don't have to use mine. I don't want anyone to feel obligated to use it. It's just if you want to support my efforts on my channel. So with that out of the way, like I said, there's a ton to cover, so let's get into it. The base size of the ULTRALIGHT 2 with no skins on it is 114 millimeters long and 36 millimeters tall at the highest point of the hump, which is very slightly towards the back of the mouse. From the top down, it's 58 millimeters across at the front, 59 millimeters in the back, and the grip width is about 54 millimeters across. The advertised weight of the mouse I think is 47 grams. Mine came in at around 49, but there was a little bit of cable on the scale with it, so that's to be expected. The shape of the mouse with nothing attached to it should look pretty familiar. It's pretty much just the old Finalmouse shape, but a lot smaller. The sidewalls have curves in them to help with picking it up. And except for the side buttons, it's symmetrical on both sides, which a lot of people refer to as ambidextrous. The shell itself is made out of hard plastic and doesn't have any finishes or coatings on it at all. They left it that way to avoid any weird or bad interactions with the adhesive that goes on the back of the infinity skin attachments that come with the mouse, but like I said before, we'll get into that later in the video. Every sensor that you're going to find in a quality mouse these days is pretty much top tier, but for those wondering, it's a 3360, and obviously there was no spin out or failed tracking or skipping or anything like that when I tested the mouse. The left and right click buttons on the mouse are pretty snappy. I would say it's a medium amount of force to press. It's not heavy like the Zowie FK1, but it's not light either like Logitech mice are. Also, they have no pre-travel, and they're separated from the back of the shell. The side buttons are pretty much unchanged from their old mice. They're snappy when you click them. And they have almost no pre-travel to them at all. The scroll wheel has 24 steps, it's easy to push in, and when I first started using it, I almost immediately noticed a difference between this and my Air 58. So I emailed Finalmouse, and I'm just going to read the exact quote they sent me because I don't want to make any promises or anything because it's very hard to test for longevity. So this is what Finalmouse said about the new wheel, which does feel much better and different. We reduced the wheel travel and kept the axles from moving as much. The construction is completely new. The travel distance before was putting excessive stress on the wheel, but also the wobble was affecting it a bit as well. It will be more than fine now. End quote. So that's all I'm going to say, guys. Like I said, it does feel better, it feels higher quality, and it feels different. Please don't spam me if your wheel breaks. I've had mine break too. I know that feel. And, but yeah. So the mouse feet. The days of scratchy mouse feet out of the box for Finalmouse are finally over. The new feet are smaller to match a smaller frame, and they're very much improved over the old versions that used to come with their mice. They feel very similar to third-party options like Hyperglides, which I have installed on my Air 58 for reference. These actually provided a little too much glide, probably because of the light weight in combination with them, so I busted out a mouse pad that had a little more friction on it to steady my aim. If you're a huge fan of really fast and smooth glide, you'll definitely like these a lot, and overall, honestly, it's a 10 times better improvement over the last options they were providing, so hats off to Finalmouse for responding to feedback and responding to competition, obviously, with other companies coming out and doing this, so yeah. The cable is very similar to the ones they were using with the Air 58. It's a little bit smaller, I think, but overall, lightweight cable, super flexible, it holds a little bit of its shape, and yeah, if you've used the other mice, you know what to expect. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's get into the whole infinity skin feature. It's a lot to unpack, so I'm going to try to organize it a little bit. There are a ton of different shapes and dimensions you can make by using different combinations of skins and different sizes of skins. I'm going to show you probably the two that I used while I was testing that I found were my favorite, and then I'll kind of leave the rest to your imagination. I mean, if you think this is a cool feature, you should know and kind of get the gist after you see one or two shapes. So I'm not going to make you guys watch a 15 or 20 minute video, so let's just get into it, and then I'll give you my final thoughts, and I'll tell you about quality control and that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's do it. Also, real quick, when you start using the skins, keep the little back part that comes with them. You can actually just store them back in the bag after you put it back on that thing, but if you don't have it, it's obviously just going to collect dust and hair and lose all the stickiness. So yeah, definitely keep these little back parts and just keep them in the bags. Okay, so like I said earlier in the video, you get 3 different thicknesses of the pads. The ones that go on the sides of the mouse obviously help with grip the most in my opinion, but they also increase the grip width by up to 5 millimeters. The difference between 58 millimeter grip width and 63 is pretty large. But something else they do that I think is worth mentioning is they actually smooth out the curvature of the sides. So if you're not a fan of the bow shape of the default mouse, you can actually install the pretty thick ones like the 2 or the 2.5, and they'll smooth that out a bit for you and obviously add a ton of grip. But the coolest thing for sure that I found when playing with the side grips was that if you install a thin one on the left or just leave it bare and then install a really thick one on the right, you wind up with a mouse that kind of feels almost like it was made for right-handed use only, like an ergonomic mouse. And honestly, as someone who's a fan of ergonomic mice, I actually thought that was super cool. You kind of wind up holding it with a feeling similar a little bit to the old Finalmouse Ergo or MX518, something like that. I mean, obviously not that extreme because those mice had very deep thumb grooves, but I was a huge fan of both of those mice. So for me, I really thought that was probably honestly the coolest thing that I found. The back piece will make the mouse longer and taller a little bit in your hand, especially if you use the 2.5 millimeter one. I think it's worth noting that this was the piece that was the most troublesome for me personally. It was the hardest one to keep on, and it was also the hardest one to apply without any wrinkles or anything like that. Some of these pieces are going to have wrinkles. It didn't really bother me unless it was in a spot that I could feel it in my palm. So just make sure when you put this on, you put it on very carefully. You can stretch these out a little bit to kind of make them more straight. But yeah, this was definitely the piece that was the weirdest for me. Also with this piece, I found that when I was using a shape where I was more towards claw grip or what people with smaller hands would palm, those are the shapes where I would definitely want to employ this. But for me, because I have pretty large hands, I actually used fingertip grip on this mouse a lot, and that's where I actually never used this one. So if you're a fingertip gripper, especially in Counter-Strike, I like to use shorter mice because I want to be able to adjust my aim up and down in small increments without having to move my entire arm and my shoulder. So that's the second shape I'm going to show you. For me, this is kind of a fingertipper's dream mouse because it's so short and you can increase the grip width if you have bigger hands without increasing the length, which means that you can really control your recoil without having to sacrifice in any of the areas. Like usually if you have a wider mouse, it's going to wind up being longer because wider mice are usually just large mice in general. But with this mouse, you can just make it really wide, keep it short, and you kind of have like a little stumpy mouse going. That's really, for me personally, insane for fingertip grip. You'll also notice that when I'm using this shape, I keep that little grip tape over the top still, even though I'm not using the back. And that's because what this tape does for me, at least for my size hands, is that tape actually makes contact with my palm knuckles. I don't really know how else to say that. You know, if you were to bend your fingers back, your knuckles pop out in your palm. So when I took that off, I noticed my palm felt a little bit too empty. So for me, I just kind of left it on there. And occasionally when I'm pulling the mouse at me, that's kind of my way of gauging where the mouse is in my hand. Now I will say this piece is the least versatile because it's 1 millimeter in all 3 packs, so you don't really get to experiment with different thicknesses. But if you're a total psycho, you could stack all 3 of these on top of each other and try to make, you know, some sort of abomination, and that actually might wind up being pretty cool. So final thoughts, the new Finalmouse is pretty sick, man. I really enjoyed playing around with the different combinations of shapes and sizes with the skins. I think if you have medium to small hands, this mouse would really suit you well. For you guys that have really big hands, you might not want to pick this up. It is a pretty small mouse. There are obviously exceptions, like for instance me, I like to fingertip grip and I like to have a pretty extreme claw grip sometimes, so it did wind up working out for me once I played with the skins and got a shape that I liked. Otherwise, it's really solid. Like I said, the wheel's better, the feet are better, which was huge for me. I didn't find any loose rattling or anything like that when I shook the mouse. I didn't find any double clicking. The sidewalls don't have as much flex. So yeah, definitely overall an improvement in quality from their last mice, and definitely unique with the modular skins that you can attach to it. I know there's other examples out there of mice that haven't come out yet, like the Astrum, that have really extreme modular designs where you can basically change the entire shell. But I think this is a cool option, and I think this covers a ton of bases for Finalmouse. For people that are like, I don't really like the shape, it could be this, this, or this. Those people will definitely be happy with the result they get from playing around with the different attachments for this mouse. So that about does it for me, guys. Like I said, if you want to check it out, if you want to buy it, you can use my code. It's FORTE, Forte, when you check out on their website. And yeah, my next review will probably come out in less than 2 weeks. I have a very weird mouse to show you guys, and I think that'll be pretty fun. So definitely tune in for that. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. I'll have links down in the description below. And yeah, until then, guys, I'll see you later. Peace. Also, as you can see, I'm a total psychopath. Alright guys, so after a lot of experimentation, this is what I landed on. I call this shape the All-American Kodiak Thick Boy. A lot of Texas style free thinking going on. You know, everyone makes their own shape, but I can say for sure that this is the only review you're going to see that has the Kodiak in it. Woo! Alright. Let's get serious. Wait a sec, this is kind of nuts for Big Hand, dude. Yo, Kodiak.